Are you allowed to burn the American flag? The short answer is yes, you are, but I think the real question is, why are you allowed to burn the flag and what laws give you the rights to do so? This video will cover all things flag burning related. I'm attorney Sina Rez Law. Now let's jump right into it. There actually has been a Supreme Court flag burning case, and that came in 1989, and it's called Texas v. Johnson. So in 1984, Gregory Lee Johnson burned a flag outside of a Republican National Convention. And this was in direct violation of a Texas law that said you are not allowed to burn the US flag, except in some very rare circumstances to basically decommission a flag, which he was not doing. Johnson was eventually arrested, tried, and convicted of violating this Texas ban on flag burning. Johnson appealed the lower court decision, and his case got all the way up to the Supreme Court. The issue before the Supreme Court was whether Johnson's conduct was considered free speech. We know the First Amendment protects free speech, but Johnson wasn't convicted for something that he said, he was convicted for something that he did. So essentially, Johnson is making the argument that his flag burning is a form of symbolic speech, and that should also be protected under the First Amendment. The Supreme Court agreed with Johnson and said that his act of flag burning was considered symbolic speech that should be protected and is protected under the First Amendment. The court noted that sometimes free speech is offensive, and just because there's outrage in society over the speech, over the words, or maybe the actions, that's alone not enough to suppress the speech. Justice Stevens, writing the dissent, says no, the majority has it wrong. The flag is something very, very special. It's our symbol of national unity, and its specialness outweighs any symbolic speech concerns, so the government should be allowed to ban flag burning. Of course, the dissent was outvoted 5-4, so flag burning is still legal today. Freedom of speech is interpreted a little bit more widely than one might think, and certain conduct is also considered symbolic speech. Here's some other less obvious forms of free speech that are protected under the First Amendment, and many of these have their own Supreme Court cases that came to this decision. So, not speaking at all, students wearing a black armband in protest of war, using offensive language, and political campaign contributions, even if they come from corporations. That is a very hot topic, and it could have its own video. Now, you can't just do anything, say anything, and say, freedom of speech, symbolic speech, First Amendment has got my back, I could do whatever I want. The First Amendment does have its limitations. The most common example of speech that is not considered protected under the First Amendment is using speech to incite actions that put others at harm. So in law school, we always hear the example of you cannot scream fire in a crowded movie theater. The idea being that there'll be a stampede, people will trample each other, someone could get hurt. So you can't just say anything, anytime with no repercussions. Interestingly enough, we just talked about how you can burn a flag, symbolic speech, but you are not allowed to burn a draft card as a form of anti-war protest. That's according to the Supreme Court case, United States v. O'Brien. I took a very quick look at that opinion. There seems to be a distinction there. They did a balancing act of the purpose, I think, of the draft card versus the symbolic speech, and they said that you can't do it. So that just goes to show there is a fine line on what's considered protected free speech versus non-protected free speech under the First Amendment. Now, I know right now every aspect of our society, including our legal system, and especially our legal system, is under critical review, for good reason. But I would encourage everyone to take a moment to just respect and appreciate the fact that we have something called the Constitution. We have something called the Bill of Rights. And together we are given rights like freedom of speech, no matter what our viewpoint is, no matter how offensive someone else might find that. And a lot of other countries, like the one that I was born in, and the one that my parents immigrated from, do not have those same protections, and the citizens do not have those same rights. So while America still has a lot of room for improvement in terms of justice, equality, and other aspects of our society, I think we can still appreciate the country that we have and the one that we live in, and also aspire for something better at the same time. I'm Sina Rezvanpour, and this is not legal advice.